All right, yeah, thank you. Great presentation, Jacques. So, like Amanda said, my name's Aiden, and then this.
My name is Armen Papyan. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Yeah, so outside of our fancy titles, Armin and I were student advocates. I, in particular, was a student lobbyist for the university, so I went down to Olympia a couple years and advocated on behalf of the students. And one of those advocacy ventures led to doing this and whatnot. So we're just going to be covering kind of the student need for affordable housing and the need for affordable housing just for the people who go to UW Tacoma in particular. So. If you want to.
Yeah. So as a former homeless student that was attending University of Washington Tacoma, I understood homelessness quite well and housing and the ramification of being homeless. So we took on, when I joined the University of Washington Tacoma in 2015 and then finally was part of ASUWT in 2017, we realized that homelessness and housing was intersectional issues with a variety of things, including childcare, food insecurities, and we decided that in order to be successful in our one-year term, we needed to hone in and be tactful at which issue we're taking on. So we decided that with my anecdotal issue of housing and homelessness, and by a survey that was done by Dr. Stevens at the University of Washington Tacoma, that shows that 80% of our students were actually experiencing homelessness in 2015, and 14% of our students were housing insecure, which meant they were a rent away from being homeless, and 8% being homeless meant actually that they were sleeping in their cars or under a tent. So we knew we had to be tactful at it. We talked to community members, staff, students, and we understood that this was an actual issue, that it wasn't only me facing, but there was multiple students facing it. And we understood that we also had to focus on education. We didn't want students to focus on how to survive, how to get food. We wanted them to have a foundation where they could sleep, take a shower, and have a place to cook. So with our diverse population, we heard about the TCC's CHAP program. It was a program where students would receive a voucher, 100 students received a voucher, and they would go find a landlord to use it with. However, there was one single problem with it, and that problem was that there wasn't enough units, as it was mentioned before. So students would have the free voucher, but they would not be able to use it because of the stereotypes involved with homeless students. So we knew we had to be a little bit more creative, a little bit innovative. So we reached out to TCC, and we threw dozens of ideas out there to see which one would stick, which one would actually work. And Aiden and Daniel, one of our colleagues that's not here today, both of them worked with TCC and a private developer.
Tacoma Housing Authority. That's what he means.
Yeah, what did I say?
You said TCC.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So many acronyms.
THA. Yeah, so they worked with Tacoma Housing Authority, and finally we received half of the units at the building, the cause development that was built right next to University of Washington Tacoma, and that's a significant portion. Those units were subsidized based on your income. And in addition, University of Washington Tacoma actually added $30,000 funding. So if you were a homeless student that wasn't able to afford first month's rent, they would support you in your transitioning process. If you weren't able to file your documents and pay for those documents, they would pay for it. It was like 50, 60, like it slowly added up, and quickly it was about approximately $1,000. And so the University of Washington Tacoma paid for the fixed cost if you qualified for it. And as you can see yourself, the apartment rates are very low, and it's based on your average median income in Tacoma. The lowest rate is at $392 per month, and the highest is $784. And if you could get a job easily at the University of Washington Tacoma, part-time job, and able to afford this, now you have a place to sleep, you have a place to take a shower, you have a place to cook food. So it's an intersectional issue that's being taken care of by one very significant crisis. And there's also priorities that we set for the program that Adan and Daniel took care of it. And Adan, do you want to talk more about what we were able to achieve?
Yeah. So basically, yeah, like Armen was getting at, the point of the program was to house the students that we mentioned earlier in our slides. 8% of homeless students, the 14% of housing insecure students, and whatnot. And a lot of us think, or at least when I was doing this, you come across people think like, are homeless students? Is that a thing? Like, don't their parents just cover them? But as you saw earlier, the average age for UW Tacoma is 27. We have a significant portion of our students who are student parents and who are caring for children, and that when they became homeless, the cost just compounded and compounded. So even if they did have a job, they couldn't afford housing. So this was just a monumental achievement for these students. It changes their lives, and it taught us a couple things that I want to point out for moving forward for in this project. Is that for campuses like us, unless you're like in Pullman, Ellensburg, Cheney, maybe even Bothell, Bellingham to lesser extents, the universities are products and integrated into the wider communities. UW Tacoma is part of Tacoma. UW Tacoma is not just some separate entity that has students just going there. So the problems that Jock mentioned earlier, and that the subsequent presenters will also address, the problems of affordable housing extend to these students. 50% of the students live within 10 miles of the campus. So we know 50% of our students are Tacoma residents, and they need long-term sustainable housing. So it's something important not to forget, especially for students like Armen and myself who might be transplants from South King County or Thurston County, that we want to stay here and we want to be here long term, and contribute to this newfound home that we have. So partnering together and recognizing that there is a problem from our perspective, from the university's perspective, recognizing that these universities, even in UW Seattle, where there's 50,000 students, where it's a lot more college-like, they need affordable housing as well, and recognizing that students and young adults, if you will, or at the community colleges, just community members need these housings, need housing as they are going into school, trying to combat the effects of the automation, as again Jacques mentioned earlier, is important. This is why we need to be advocates, why we need to come and partner together, and because it is this collaboration, especially in Pierce County, as we're getting slightly ahead of the game, if you will, but there's still a lot that we need to do. That will solve this crisis. That's how we, rambling my words, sorry. My larger point is we need to collaborate. And it is projects like what we've taken upon, for students in particular, a almost forgotten population, if you will. And for other populations that may not even be students that we haven't even identified, that we need to come across, get 2,000 plus organizations in the community within the city of Tacoma to come together and solve it, because it takes all of us to be able to solve this problem now. Yeah.
Yeah, and as Adan mentioned, all three of us that spearheaded this project all of us were students at the time, and we weren't from Tacoma. We were from all over the place in Washington State, and we found Tacoma our home. Tacoma gave us like a second home, a place to live, a place to use its resources. Its community leaders got together and really supported us, and the University of Washington Tacoma in return is giving support back. And so I feel like this is issue that we all should be working together, and we're very thankful for Tacoma, for the people that really accepted us and brought us together, because it wouldn't have been with the amazing community partners like Coast Development, like THA, all the government agencies. It was a very difficult start. You can imagine you're going up to an administrator and asking for support for to solve
$2 million in support, mind you.
Yeah, and they're like, "What are you crazy?" And we're like, "No, we actually want to help you. This is what we're here for. We worked extra time, and I guess we're able to get something done. And not only that, but There's also this project is expanding to 70 plus units in the next few months.
Over on Puyallup Street, actually, over by the Tacoma Dome.
So thank you for all of you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.